You've been paying for a collapse that will never come. You work harder than your parents did. You're more educated, more connected, more productive, and yet you can't afford what they could. The rent climbs. The debt grows. The emergency fund never quite builds up. You're doing everything they told you to do. And somehow, you're still one bad month away from disaster. This isn't bad luck. And it's not just you. In this video, you'll understand why the system absorbs every crisis without breaking. Why it survives wars, recessions, scandals, and rage. Why the people who designed it never lose. And why your exhaustion is not a bug in the code. It's the entire point. Because what you're living through isn't chaos. It's not mismanagement. It's not a series of unfortunate mistakes made by incompetent leaders. It's a structure. A design structure. And the design has one purpose: to transfer wealth and power upward during moments of collective fear. The system doesn't break during crises. It feeds on them. Let's start with what the system actually is. Not the government. Not capitalism in the abstract. Not some shadowy room full of villains. The system is a set of rules about who gets rescued and who gets left behind when things fall apart. It's the architecture that decides which debts get forgiven and which ones follow you to your grave. Which institutions are too big to fail and which people are too small to save. It's a priority list. And you're not on it. Here's how it works. Every few years, there's a crisis. A crash. A pandemic. A recession. A bubble bursting. Something breaks. Markets collapse. People lose jobs. Savings evaporate. And in that moment of collective panic, when everyone is scared and confused, something very specific happens. Money moves. Not randomly. Not chaotically. It moves according to a script. Public money flows to private hands. Risk gets socialized. Profit gets privatized. The language used is always the same: stability, confidence, liquidity, systemic risk. But the outcome is always the same too. The people who caused the crisis get bailed out. The people who suffered from it get debt. This isn't accidental. It's not a failure of the system. It's the system succeeding. Because the system was never designed to protect you. It was designed to protect itself. And the people who control it. Here's the part most people miss. The system doesn't need to be efficient. It doesn't need to be fair. It doesn't even need to make sense to you. It only needs one thing: your compliance. Your participation. Your continued belief that if you just work harder, save smarter, play by the rules better, you'll eventually be safe. That belief is the fuel. Your exhaustion is the asset. Because as long as you're too tired to resist and too hopeful to give up, the system runs perfectly. Let's talk about debt. Debt is not a mistake you made. Debt is a tool of control. It's how the system ensures you can't afford to take risks. Can't afford to say no. Can't afford to stop working even when the work destroys you. Student debt. Medical debt. Credit card debt. Mortgage debt. The categories don't matter. The function is the same. Debt keeps you obedient. It keeps you predictable. It keeps you showing up. And here's what makes it brilliant. The debt isn't designed to be paid off. It's designed to be managed. To follow you. To grow faster than your ability to escape it. Because the moment you're debt-free is the moment you become dangerous. The moment you can say no to a bad job. No to a bad deal. No to the entire arrangement. The system can't allow that. So the debt stays. And it grows. And you keep working. Now let's talk about who benefits. Not in abstract terms. In concrete ones. When a bank fails, who gets rescued? The executives who ran it into the ground? They get bonuses. Severance packages. New positions at other firms. The shareholders? They get bailouts. Government guarantees. Liquidity injections. The economy, we're told, must be saved. But what does that mean? It means the people who own the economy must be saved. You get austerity. Budget cuts. Hiring freezes. The message is clear. The system is too important to fail. You are not. This is where the real control appears. Because the system doesn't just take from you during the crisis. It makes you pay for the rescue. Your taxes bail out the banks. Your services get cut to balance the budget. Your wages stagnate to keep inflation low. Your job security vanishes to keep labor costs flexible. And all of this is explained to you as necessary. Responsible. The only option. Because if the system falls, you're told, everyone suffers. But the system never falls. It just takes more. Let's go deeper. Why does this structure survive? Why doesn't it break under its own weight? Why don't the contradictions collapse it? Because it has something very specific built into its foundation: crisis absorption. The system is designed to convert crisis into opportunity. Not for you. For itself. Every crash is a buying opportunity for those with capital. Every recession is a chance to acquire assets at discount prices. Every disaster is a justification for more control, more surveillance, more concentration of power. You've seen this. After every collapse, the wealth gap widens. After every bailout, the same people own more. After every emergency, your rights shrink and their profits grow. This is not irony. It's function. The system doesn't survive in spite of the crises. It survives because of them. Here's the thing about power. Real power isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. Real power is structural. It's the rules no one questions. The assumptions everyone shares. The alternatives no one can imagine. Real power is making you believe that the way things are is the way things must be. That there is no other option. That this is just reality. Natural. Inevitable. Permanent. And this is why it never collapses. Because collapse would require an alternative. A different set of rules. A different priority list. But the system controls the imagination. It controls the language. It controls what gets called realistic and what gets called radical. It controls who gets heard and who gets ignored. So the alternative never materializes. The crisis comes. The wealth transfers. The structure holds. And the cycle repeats. Let's look at history for a moment. Not to start there, but to confirm what you already suspect. Every empire runs this pattern. Britain. Every dominant power builds the same machine. A center that extracts from the periphery. A core that consumes the margins. A structure that channels wealth inward and pushes risk outward. The specifics change. The technology evolves. The language updates. But the logic stays the same. Concentrate power. Privatize gains. Socialize losses. Survive by feeding on crisis. And when these empires fall, do they fall because the structure breaks? They fall because the extraction becomes unsustainable. Because there's nothing left to take. Because the periphery collapses and the center starves. But even then, the people who ran the structure? They move. They adapt. They build it somewhere else. Because they're not loyal to the empire. They're loyal to the mechanism. Right now, you're living in the late stage of this cycle. The extraction is accelerating. The wealth concentration is extreme. The crises are coming faster. And the system is doing exactly what it was designed to do: survive by taking more. More from your paycheck. More from your future. More from your children's future. The bailouts get bigger. The cuts get deeper. The inequality gets wider. And somehow, the system never breaks. You want to know why? Because breaking would require the people in control to lose. And the system is designed by people who refuse to lose. Who have spent centuries perfecting the art of survival. Who have learned that you don't stay in power by being fair. You stay in power by being essential. By making sure that your collapse would hurt everyone else more than it hurts you. By becoming too big to fail. Too connected to remove. Too embedded to extract. This is the core truth. The system doesn't serve you. It uses you. Your labor. Your debt. Your compliance. Your hope. It extracts value from your exhaustion and calls it growth. It profits from your fear and calls it stability. It survives on your participation and calls it democracy. And it does all of this while making you believe that you're the problem. That if you're struggling, it's because you're not smart enough. Not disciplined enough. Not resilient enough. The system is fine, you're told. You're the one who's broken. But you're not broken. The system is working exactly as intended. And what it's designed to do is make you pay for its survival. Every time. Without exception. Without mercy. This is why your parents' generation could afford a house and you can't. This is why their education was cheap and yours left you in debt. This is why their jobs had pensions and yours have gig contracts. Not because things got worse. Because the extraction got more efficient. Let's talk about what happens next. Not predictions. Just logic. The system will face another crisis. It always does. Markets will crash. Banks will fail. People will suffer. And in that moment, the same thing will happen again. Public money will rescue private power. Your taxes will bail out their losses. Your services will be cut to restore their confidence. The wealth will transfer upward. The pain will spread downward. And the system will survive. Stronger than before. You'll be told it had to be done. That there was no choice. That the alternative was worse. And most people will believe it. Because the alternative was never offered, never explained, never allowed into the conversation. The system doesn't debate its existence. It only debates the details of its continuation. How much to cut? How much to bail out? How much pain is necessary? But never whether the stability is worth maintaining. Never who the stability serves. This is the genius of it. The system doesn't need to convince you it's good. It only needs to convince you it's inevitable. That there is no other way. That this is just how things work. How economies function. How societies operate. How reality is structured. And once you believe that, you stop resisting. You stop imagining. You stop demanding. You just comply. You participate. You pay. And here's what they're counting on, that you'll keep paying. That you'll keep working. That you'll keep hoping things will get better if you just try harder. That you'll keep blaming yourself instead of questioning the structure. That you'll keep believing the crisis is temporary instead of recognizing it's permanent. That you'll keep thinking the system is broken instead of understanding it's working exactly as designed. Because the moment you understand that, everything changes. Not because you suddenly have power, but because you stop giving them yours. You stop believing their explanations. You stop accepting their priorities. You stop participating in your own extraction. And that's the only thing the system can't survive. Not rebellion. Not revolution. Not violence. Just refusal. Just non-compliance. Just enough people saying, I see what this is. I understand how it works. And I'm not playing anymore. But they're betting you won't get there. They're betting you're too tired. Too scared. Too isolated. Too convinced that you're alone in this. That everyone else is fine and you're the only one struggling. That's the final layer of control. Making you think your suffering is personal, individual, your fault. When the truth is it's structural, collective, designed. The system transfers wealth upward by making you believe you're falling downward because of your own inadequacy. It survives by privatizing your shame, by making sure you never compare notes, never organize, never recognize that your exhaustion and your neighbor's exhaustion are the same exhaustion, created by the same mechanism, serving the same purpose. This is why the system never breaks. Not because it's strong, but because it's invisible, because it operates below the level of conscious thought. Because it's embedded in the assumptions you don't question, the beliefs you inherited, the priorities you never chose but always follow. It's in the way you think about money, about work, about success, about what you deserve and what you don't. The system lives in your mind before it lives in the world. So what does this mean for you? It means the crisis you're waiting for, the one that will finally break the system and force change, is not coming. The system doesn't break. It adapts. It flexes. It absorbs. It survives. It will outlast your anger, your frustration, your hope for collapse. Because it was built by people who understand that control is not about force. It's about structure. It's about making sure that even when people hate the system, they can't imagine an alternative. And every day you participate, the system gets stronger. Every day you comply, it gets more embedded. Every day you accept the priorities it sets, you reinforce the structure it built. The system runs on your energy, your labor, your debt, your belief that things might get better. That belief is not hope. It's fuel. The people who designed this understand something brutal. You don't need to convince someone to serve you. You just need to make sure they can't afford to stop. You don't need loyalty. You need dependency. You don't need agreement. You need compliance. And compliance doesn't require understanding. It only requires participation. Show up. Repeat. This is why your job doesn't pay enough but you can't quit. Why your rent is too high but you can't move. Why your debt is overwhelming but you can't default. Every pressure point in your life is a control mechanism. Every vulnerability is a leverage point. Every fear is a tool. The system doesn't just extract your labor. It extracts your agency, your options, your ability to say no. And when you finally break, the system has a response ready. It's your fault. You made bad choices. You weren't disciplined. You weren't smart. You weren't resilient. This narrative is crucial. Because if your failure is personal, then the system is fine. If your suffering is individual, then the structure doesn't need to change. Only you do. But here's what they don't want you to realize. If everyone is failing the same way, it's not personal. It's structural. If the majority is struggling, the system isn't broken. It's working. Just not for you. It's working for the people who designed it. The people who benefit when you're desperate. When you're dependent. When you're too exhausted to resist. This is the final piece. The system doesn't need you to thrive. It needs you to survive. Just barely. Just enough to keep working. Just enough to keep paying. Just enough to keep hoping. Because if you completely collapse, you stop being useful. But if you're always on the edge, always one crisis away from disaster, you'll accept any wage, any condition, any deal. So the system keeps you there, on the edge, permanently. Your precarity is their stability. Your fear is their control. Your exhaustion is their power. And as long as you believe that security is possible if you just work hard enough, you'll keep feeding the machine that keeps you insecure. The system never breaks because it was built to survive what breaks you. It was designed by people who understand that power is not about winning every battle. It's about controlling the terrain, setting the rules, deciding what questions get asked, determining what's realistic and what's radical, shaping what you can imagine and what you can't. And that's where we are. In a moment where the system is more concentrated, more efficient, more sophisticated than ever before. Where it can extract more wealth, more labor, more value from more people with less resistance than at any point in history. Where the tools of control are invisible, embedded in algorithms, hidden in contracts, dispersed through debt, normalized through repetition. But it's not inevitable. It never was. The system is a choice, a set of priorities, a design structure. And what was designed can be redesigned. What was built can be rebuilt. What was chosen can be changed. But only if enough people stop believing it's inevitable. Stop accepting it's natural. Stop participating in their own extraction. The system doesn't need you to believe in it. It only needs you to participate. And every day you do, you make it stronger. Every day you accept the priorities it sets, you reinforce the structure it built. Every day you comply with rules you didn't choose, you give power to people who will never serve you. This is not a call to action. This is an observation. A map. A blueprint of the machine you're living inside. What you do with that information is your choice. But at least now you know, the system isn't broken. It never was. It's working exactly as intended. And you're paying for it.